I bought my dream home and invited my family to the housewarming. No one came. They all went to see my sister's new car instead. Then, when I turned on the lights, my phone exploded with a call from my dad. We need to talk. Now, have you ever wrestled with the unsettling question? What if the people closest to you, the ones you've always relied upon, view you not as a beloved son or brother, but as a walking ATM? What if the sanctuary you've meticulously built, the house of your dreams, suddenly becomes a battleground, discovered only when you realize your family has already earmarked your future before you even turn the key? My name is Aaron. I'm 29, and yes, I admit it, I'm that guy. The eldest, the meticulous planner, the one perpetually prepared with spare batteries and a robust emergency fund. My profession, project coordination and construction, perfectly suits me. Permits, schedules, budgets. I revel in pristine lists, impeccably labeled boxes, and doors that actually latch on the first try. To my family, I'm their steadfast, practical anchor. But in my own heart, I'm the quiet, invisible operating system making all their vibrant chaos possible. Then there's Tessa, my sister. 26, and by all accounts, golden. Spontaneous, effervescent, entirely vision-led, which in our family lexicon translates to our parents erupting in applause every time she expresses a whim. When I earned my driver's license, I worked, saved, acquired a pre-owned Civic, and mastered oil changes in our driveway. When it was Tessa's turn, Dad merely declared, "A young woman needs something safe," and presented her with the keys to a gleaming new hatchback, adorned with a dramatic dealership bow. I learned early, genuine appreciation was a currency I was not meant to collect. My role was simply to do what was right and keep moving. My quest for a house wasn't about seeking recognition. It was about autonomy, about doors that sealed definitively. It was about escaping the perpetual thrum of my father's television through paper-thin walls, about not navigating a refrigerator perpetually choked with my sister's forgotten meal prep experiments. I dedicated 4 relentless years to this dream. Overtime shifts, foregone vacations, enduring roommates whose dishes seemed to fossilize. Every sacrifice, meticulously tracked in a spreadsheet I aptly named brick by brick, was a no to transient pleasures, paving the way for one resounding yes. Last month, that yes materialized. A modest craftsman, graced with a lemon tree, and a porch swing the previous owners bequeathed with a tender request. Sit here. 2 bedrooms, a charmingly squeaky hallway, and a quaint old fireplace featuring a tile adorned with a whimsically crooked blue fish. As my hand traced the cool kitchen counter, a profound sense of belonging settled over me. This, for the first time, felt unequivocally mine. I sent a photograph to the family group chat, keys clutched in my hand, a triumphant sold sign gleaming behind me. My caption was simple, hopeful. Housewarming next Saturday at 5. Chili, cornbread, fire pit if the wind cooperates. The response? 3 confetti emojis. A generic, almost robotic proud of you, son, from mom and dad. And from Tessa, a champagne bottle sticker with YS. All week, I meticulously prepared. I scrubbed cabinet fronts until they gleamed, lined drawers with fresh paper, and rolled leftover paint over every minor scuff. I invested in folding chairs and exactly 8 matching bowls. I even salvaged a secondhand rug, strapping it precariously to the Civic, its corners flapping in my side mirror like jubilant victory flags. Saturday arrived, brimming with fragile anticipation. I meticulously strung lights across the backyard and lit 3 citronella candles, their scent a faint echo of lemon cleaner. The chili began its comforting simmer. At precisely 4:20, the cornbread entered the oven. I arranged a cooler on the deck, filled with ice, an assortment of sodas, 2 beers, and a single root beer, a nod to Dad's occasional regression in a childlike cheer. Napkins and those unassuming plastic spoons were laid out. At 5:02, I peered down the road. Silence. At 5:11, I lit the candles anyway, a solitary act of defiance against the quiet. At 5:18, I texted for an ETA. Mom's response, soon with a heart. Dad remained silent. Then Tessa's photo arrived. her sunglasses glinting, posing in front of a glossy red vehicle on a car lot. "We did a thing," the caption proclaimed. At 5:33, my phone buzzed again, a video from Mom. "Look at our girl," her muffled voice enthused from behind the lens. Tessa revved the engine, a triumphant roar. Laughter, then the salesman's perfunctory clap. The video abruptly ceased. I simply stared at the screen, a chilling tableau. The chili, meanwhile, formed a large, glossy bubble, then popped with a muted sigh. I reached over and extinguished the burner. At 5:41, I flicked on my new living room lights, anticipating that profound sense of home to envelop me instantly. Instead, the space felt stark, like a vacant stage prepared for a real estate showing, clean, poised, and utterly empty. My phone shrilled. "Dad." I allowed it to ring a beat longer than I would have a year prior, then answered. "We need to talk," he stated, devoid of preamble. "Okay," I managed, glancing at the whimsical welcome sign still affixed to my porch, now feeling like a bitter jest. "Now," he insisted. I stood bathed in the nascent light of my own house, phone pressed to my ear, absorbing that familiar tone Dad employed just before assigning me a new obligation. I didn't yet grasp the specifics of their demand. I only knew they were all at a dealership, while I remained in a silent kitchen, the chili slowly cooling. I leaned against the counter. "I'm home," I stated, omitting the "finally," because no one had come. The porch swing gave a single, mournful creak in a gentle breeze. The welcome sign seemed absurd, a punchline less setup. I ended the call, placing my phone face down. Somewhere across the city, my sister performed triumphant laps in a brand new car, met with universal applause. I stood in my house, listening to the quiet hum of the refrigerator. The initial shock wasn't a sudden crash. It was the quiet illumination of lights for an audience that had chosen a different spectacle. I served myself a bowl of chili and ate it, standing over the sink. It was good. The room remained quiet, the lights unwavering. I didn't cry. I didn't rage. I simply chewed. My gaze drifted to the doorway, feeling the faint draft where the new weather stripping had yet to arrive. Then, I methodically washed the bowl, dried it, and placed it face down on a towel, as if preparing for a confrontation whose shape I couldn't yet define. In our household, money perpetually wore a disguise. It masqueraded as love, duty, or discipline, adapting to the day's convenience. At 14, Dad termed it responsibility, deducting $100 monthly for room and board from my grocery store wages. "Teaches you the real world," he'd declare, peeling the cash from my open palm as if collecting a fine. At 16, when I dared to inquire about the money's destination, Mom would murmur, "Into the family." When I then asked to see the family, Dad merely scoffed. By then, I had already begun my meticulous ledger, a note on my phone, documenting dates and amounts. I convinced myself it wasn't petty. It was a compass navigating a dense fog, through which others insisted I'd fabricated the path. Tessa, meanwhile, possessed an uncanny knack for materializing, precisely when funds became available. Her expertise lay in the realm of "I want." The vocabulary around her was invariably softened. Dreams, vision, potential. She embarked on a single, abortive semester of community college, abandoning it because the professor was negative. Her candle business, charmingly tax-evasive, never quite materialized. Her latest aspiration, content creator. This, naturally, necessitated a superior phone, a ring light, a dedicated creative space, and a car to facilitate brand deals. And who, pray tell, meticulously calculated the spatial dimensions for this creative space? Who painstakingly relocated a cumbersome couch from the garage? Who chauffeured her to a collab that was, in fact, a stranger's apartment with a disquieting odor? When I dared to resist, when I uttered a firm no to a fleeting phone plan add-on or refused to simply co-sign a 6-month lease, their language shifted, weaponizing itself against me. I became cold, transactional, stingy. Mom would chastise, "Don't be a ledger with your family." Dad would intone, "A man provides." And a man provides for his family. I had, in fact, provided for countless exigencies. Tessa's credit card emergency, $312 and change. Dad's truck tires, purchased when he miscalculated payday, $198. The HOA fee they allowed to lapse into collections, $280, plus late fees and a lawyer's letter, because naturally the HOA was a scam. And the smaller, insidious ones, Disney Plus, because we all watch, premium coffee pods, because we like the nice ones, a replacement vacuum, because ours died and we can't vacuum without one. The plea was always plural, the gratitude conspicuously singular. My refusal would elicit Mom's practiced, glassy-eyed plea. We did everything for you. We fed you. Dad would cross his arms, his gaze fixed distantly, muttering, "We're not asking for the moon. Just family. I'm no saint," I tell myself and others. I'm just a man who appreciates clarity on where resources are directed and what the plan entails. I assisted when I could, finding it less arduous than outright confrontation. Sometimes assistance masquerades as loyalty, even when it's anything but. But the acquisition of this house fundamentally altered the equation. It signified an end to leasing out portions of my life to transient roommates and unexpected guests. It meant a door bearing my name, a deed where no other initials could surreptitiously appear. It meant no one could invoke "we" to implicitly mean compelling me to merely smile and acquiesce. When I informed my parents I was house hunting, their responses were immediate and telling. Mom suggested, "Include a guest room so Tessa has a place to stay while she figures out her next move." Dad stipulated, "Ensure it has a garage so I can finally store the table saw." Tessa chirped, "Your house is going to be amazing. And also, can I record in your kitchen? The light is perfect." When my offer was accepted, I celebrated with a bottle of inexpensive sparkling cider and paper cups. I did it, I announced, triumphant. Mom's hug was swift, immediately followed by, "We should get Tessa on your address so her insurance is lower. Just for now." Dad, beaming, added, "A property is a family asset." Tessa, meanwhile, captured her reflection in my car mirror and posted, "Big change is coming," accompanied by a sparkle emoji, as if my new home were merely a prop in her perpetual performance. I bore the burden, the down payment, the closing costs, the unforeseen expense of replacing a pipe section the inspector had diplomatically termed optimistic. I signed countless documents 15 times, then once more. The pen felt weighty, yet exquisitely sweet, as the title officer slid a folder across the desk and pronounced me homeowner. A profound knot, carried since the age of 14 when I was presented with a bill for existing, finally unraveled in my throat. That week, Mom texted, "We'll come Saturday to help you settle in and bless the space." Her accompanying list of small things they could bring, a plant, a rug, that painter your father loves, felt loaded. Tessa declared, "I'll do a house tour for my followers." My terse reply, "Housewarming at 5. It was only later that the chilling clarity struck me. Were they coming to eat or to claim? Saturday provided the unequivocal answer. No one arrived. They were at a dealership, rapt spectators to Tessa's triumphant lapse. Dad was likely on speaker with the salesman, aggressively negotiating the APR. Mom, no doubt, was filming the reveal, her eyebrows theatrically raised as if experiencing a genuine surprise. Everyone applauded a car already depreciating the moment it rolled off the lot. No one bothered to acknowledge the door I had paid dearly to open. When Dad's call came, bearing the ominous "we need to talk," I recognized the tone instantly. It wasn't about congratulations. It was about logistics, about my house, seen through the predatory gaze of a hawk eyeing its territory. The cold chili in my sink wasn't the singular source of my anger. It was the latest iteration of an insidious pattern, one that shifted its disguise in every scene, but always revealed the same contour: a favor with my name and a deadline attached, a plan, a safety net, a family where love often sounded suspiciously like, "Just sign here." I refused to answer his immediate demand. "Tomorrow afternoon," I texted back. His reply, "Don't be dramatic. In my family, Dramatic simply meant you hadn't acquiesced fast enough. That night, the lemon tree branches clicked in the wind, dropping a single fruit onto the lawn. I sat on the porch swing, watching a moth dance around the light, my phone a silent, weighty presence on the table. I left it untouched. The sky bled from purple to an unremarkable gray. I began to construct a list for tomorrow, half chores, half steel-spined resolve. In the morning, I polished the counters again, a ritual for when I brace myself for a conversation where affection is packaged as obligation. They arrived in a 10-minute early convoy, an unwelcome raid. Dad's truck led, Mom's SUV trailed, and Tessa, in her shiny new red car, temporary tags askew, brought up the rear. I watched through the peephole. Tessa preened in her visor mirror. Mom's lips were pressed thin, as if preparing to lecture a classroom. Dad, predictably, carried a clipboard. I opened the door before they could ring. "Hey," I offer, my voice neutral. Mom air-kissed the space beside my cheek. "We'll bless the house after," she declared. "After what?" I asked, a dangerous calm in my tone. Dad strode past me into the living room, a possessive air about him. Tessa filmed a quick pan for her story. "You guys look," she instructed her phone. "My brother's house." They didn't remove their shoes. They didn't marvel at the tile fish. They didn't inquire about the lemon tree. Dad placed a clipboard on my counter. "Let's get down to it," he announced. "To what?" I asked, though the answer already suffocated the air. He flipped a page. Printouts, headings, bullet points. He was almost giddy. "Okay," he began. "First, given your sister's predatory insurance rates, we're moving her registration to your address. She'll park here sometimes." "No," I stated. He blinked. "Excuse me?" "No," I reiterated, my voice unwavering. "No registration at my address, unless the person lives here." Mom immediately adopted her saccharine, helpful tone. "She'll be here all the time," she insisted. "She needs a stable base." Tessa, lounging against the counter, phone in hand, chimed in, "It's not a big deal. Everyone does it. It's literally a victimless crime." "It's not about crime," I countered, my voice resolute. "It's about my name." Dad sighed, the exaggerated patience of a parent with an intractable child. "You're being rigid," he pronounced. "Next item. We need to get your dad on the deed." "You are my dad." I interjected a small, defiant jab. He ignored me. "For estate reasons," he continued. "So things are clean if anything happens to you." "If anything happens to me," I replied, a chilling clarity in my voice. "My will is in my desk drawer." I drafted one last month, signed by Mike from work and his girlfriend. "No one goes on my deed." Mom's smile thinned into a brittle line. "We're protecting you," she asserted. "You don't understand how the world works." I read things. I said, "I understand." Tessa looked genuinely affronted, as if I'd refused to sample her new lip gloss. "So selfish," she muttered. "We're literally family." "Dad, turn another page." "Fine, then you can at least pull some cash out," he suggested. "Refinance and take a small equity line, say $80,000. We'll help you manage it. Tessa needs a down payment for a storefront." "There it is," I said, the words heavy with revelation. "What?" Mom asked, feigning genuine surprise. "The real reason you skipped my housewarming," I clarified. "You were coordinating your strategy for my house." Tessa threw up her hands. "We were celebrating my car," she exclaimed. "It's a big step. You're being petty." Dad tapped the clipboard authoritatively. "This is the step," he declared. "We need to be strategic. Your money, sitting idly in walls, is lazy. Unlock it. Tessa's boutique will pay it back." "Tessa's boutique." I countered, a bitter laugh escaping. "The candles, the pop-ups you abandon when you're tired, the brand you've rebranded 3 times?" She bristled, puffing up. "You're being negative," she accused. "This is why you don't get invited to things." "I invited you to my house," I reminded her, voice sharp. "You chose a dealership." Mom interceded with that carefully modulated voice she reserved for conflating manipulation with compassion. "Aaron," she began, "listen to me. We raised you. We housed you. We fed you. Family reallocates resources to the child in the season of need. You're steady. Your sister is launching for 6 months, maybe a year. You carry more now. Then she'll carry you when you settle down. Settle down? I asked, a mirthless chuckle. I just settled, right here in this house. Dad leaned forward, hands braced on my counter. Be a man, he said, his voice dropping to a low, coercive rumble. Step up. You taught me to be a man by charging me rent at 14. I shot back, every word laced with years of suppressed resentment. I stepped up. I saved. I did this on my own. This house is not a group project. The air crackled with a palpable shift. This was the precise moment in our family dynamic when one was expected to capitulate, when Dad's voice would escalate, or Mom's tears would well. Tessa, sensing the emotional currents, metaphorically wrapped them around her like a protective scarf. She jabbed a manicured finger at me. You don't even use both bedrooms, she snapped. I could move in. I could help with content. I could pay you a little. How much? I asked, my gaze piercing. She blinked, taken aback. Why does it matter? Money is energy. It flows. Dad slapped the clipboard with a resounding thud. Enough, he bellowed. Here's what's going to happen. I'll call my guy. We'll get your deed set so you're protected. We'll refinance to free up a cushion. We'll register the car to your address for the discount. You'll host Thanksgiving this year because you have the space. No, I said. My voice was level, resolute, a quiet force against their storm. To all of it, Mom's eyes welled, a familiar, well-rehearsed sadness. Why are you punishing us? She whispered. This isn't about revenge, I stated, the calm settling over me like a perfectly fastened seatbelt. This is about closure. Dad scoffed. From what? From your family. From a role I didn't sign for. I clarified. From Aaron, we'll figure it out. From being the perpetual budget line for every scheme you devise. Tessa's voice sharpened, venomous. You're lucky, she sneered. You got a house. Some of us actually need help. I needed help too, I said, meeting her gaze steadily. I just gave it to myself. Dad pointed at me like a drill sergeant. Listen, he said, his voice low now, menacing. You don't slam doors on blood. I'm not slamming. I corrected, a cold certainty in my tone. I'm locking what I paid for. He straightened, his anger a quiet, internal combustion. I knew what that meant. He was fundamentally rewriting my character in his internal narrative. If you do this, he warned, don't come crying when you're alone. And don't expect us to show up when you finally need something, Mom added, her voice brittle. I gazed at the lemon on my counter, tempted to act petty and hand it to them as a symbol of their bitter fruit. But I refrained. Tessa ostentatiously checked her watch. I have content to shoot, she declared. Are we done here? We're done, I confirmed, my gaze sweeping over each of them. House rules. No registering anything here unless you live here. No keys given out. No one on my deed. No loans. If Grandma needs medicine, I'll help her directly. Otherwise, my house is not the family ATM or storage unit. If you want the table saw here, you bring cash for a storage shed, and we'll sign a receipt. Dad's laugh was a harsh, humorless bark. A receipt? He scoffed, as if the word itself were a vile insult. Yep, I said, meeting his eyes evenly. A receipt. You've changed, Mom said, her voice thin, wounded. I've moved, I replied. They departed, the slam of the door resonating with an eloquence that words could never achieve. Tessa revved her new car, its engine roar a futile attempt to obliterate the quiet resolve emanating from my porch light. I watched the crimson taillights recede into the distance, my heartbeat a frantic drum against my teeth. Then I stepped back inside. I meticulously transcribed my newly articulated rules onto an index card and affixed it to the inside of the pantry door. Not for their benefit, but for mine. Many believe the grand confrontation is the most arduous part. It isn't. The true trial begins in the ensuing weeks, when your phone transforms into a relentless fire alarm, and you must consciously choose not to rush into the smoke, merely out of habit. Within the hour, the family group chat became an inferno. Mom, your behavior today was unacceptable. Dad, ungrateful. Tessa, a screenshot of a DMV page, address change needed, caption with my brother is literally sabotaging me. 3 of her acquaintances hearted it. A stranger DM'd me a snake emoji. I muted the chat. I silenced my ringer. I designated Grandma and Mike from work as favorites, allowing their calls to bypass the digital blockade. Then, quietly, without ceremony or explanation, I commenced the arduous, unglamorous work of disentanglement. I altered the smart lock code, erasing the temporary access I'd created for moving day. I installed a mail slot with a lock, preventing anyone from helpfully collecting my mail and accidentally discovering my bank statements. I emailed my insurance agent, instructing her to decline any policy changes without my explicit written signature and a prearranged password. I froze my credit, acutely aware of my father's elastic definition of emergency. I placed a freeze on my property records with the county, ensuring an alert would be sent if anyone attempted to file anything under my parcel number. I even contacted the dealership Tessa had so proudly tagged, inquiring if my address had been used. The young man on the phone confirmed, yeah, someone mentioned a family property for insurance. We didn't put it through yet. Don't, I stated, then promptly sent a follow-up email, ensuring a documented record. I saved this correspondence in a folder I labeled House Paper Trail, because after a lifetime in my family, I understood that paper trails were the only tangible anchors in their fluid reality. Mom's campaign escalated to a barrage of phone calls. 6 missed. 9. 4. The voicemails oscillated wildly, from scathing accusations to saccharine pleas, from veiled threats to tender, mournful sighs. "We can fix this," she'd implore. "If you love me, call me. Then, we'll be at your house at 7 o'clock. Followed by a dramatic sigh. "I don't even know who you are anymore." Dad's communication arrived as 2 cryptic text links, one to a refinance calculator, the other to a big box store storage shed. His lone caption, "Be reasonable." I offered no response. Tessa, meanwhile, weaponized her public story. "Sometimes the people closest to you laugh when you drive," she wrote over a photo of her new car. "Drive anyway." Her followers dutifully chimed in, "Haters gonna hate." I simply closed the app, stepped outside, and picked 2 lemons. I offered one to my neighbor across the street, who had offered a warm welcome on moving day. She mentioned she enjoyed them in tea. We spoke of inconsequential things for 4 restorative minutes. It felt like drawing a deep, clean breath in a place suddenly abundant with oxygen. On day 3, Mom unveiled a new strategy. "We have a plan," her text announced. "We'll help with your mortgage if you sign a family agreement that keeps the house in us." The quotation marks around "in us" were a telling detail. She knew it was linguistic acrobatics, but hoped it might feel normal. My reply was a single, unyielding sentence. "No one goes on my deed." She didn't respond for 6 hours. Then, a final, cutting salvo. "You'll be alone at holidays." "Maybe," I typed back, "but I'll have a chair to sit in." Aunt Mara called, leaving a voicemail with a faint hymn humming in the background, followed by, "Blood is thicker than pride." I later Googled the full quote and laughed aloud in my kitchen, discovering its original meaning was the exact antithesis of her implication. I didn't return her call. Dad made a solitary, unannounced appearance early Saturday, before my coffee was even brewed. I watched him through the peephole, deliberating whether to ring the bell. He raised his fist, then let it drop. He texted, "Come out." My reply, "No surprise visits. Make an appointment." He stood on my porch, photographing my house, as if the image itself could intimidate me. Then he retreated to his truck and drove away. I dutifully noted the date and time on a Post-it, adding it to my paper trail folder. That afternoon, Tessa fed Mom another carefully crafted line, which Mom dutifully relayed to me. "Tessa needs a temporary mailing address just for the DMV. It's just mail." I responded with a link to the state law regarding primary residences. My message was simply no. Tessa's reply, 12 eye roll emojis, and "You're literally obsessed with rules." My final word, "They're how houses stay yours." Later that night, Grandma called, just after her favorite soap opera. "They're mad," she stated matter-of-factly. "Are you eating?" "I am," I confirmed. "I made chili." "Put some in the freezer," she advised. "Don't let your mother guilt you into feeding them with your walls." "I won't." I promised a quiet vow. We discussed her medications. I offered to arrange auto shipment to her door monthly. "You're a good boy," she declared. "Don't be a fool." That was her unique blend of affection and caution. "I love you, and also keep the doors locked." I diligently recorded her needs and set up the online order, then called her back with the confirmation number. She meticulously transcribed it onto a sticky note for her fridge. "We are alike, she and I. We find solace in verifiable facts, in numbers that confirm existence." On day 5, the incessant barrage of texts and calls fell silent. This quiet unnerved me more than the clamor. Silence, where my family was concerned, meant reloading. At noon, an email from my title company pinged. "FYI," it read, "receive inquiry adding party to deed." No action taken. Attached was a blurry scan of a request form, my parcel number visible, and father scribbled where new owner should have been. No signature, no legal validity, just raw audacity, crudely photocopied onto office paper. The assistant's notes stated, "We rejected it, as we should have. We wanted you to know." I replied with 10 enthusiastic thank yous and requested they flag my file for any future funny business. I printed the email, adding it to my folder. I ate a sandwich over the sink, shaking my head until the white-hot anger smoothed into a dull, resilient ache. That night, the family group chat defiantly renamed itself Family Emergency. Mom typed, "We're having a meeting on Sunday. Non-negotiable." I typed, "I won't be there," and muted it once more. Dad's responses followed. "You will. Then, we're parents." And finally, the classic, "It's time for you to grow up." I set my phone aside and focused my energy on hanging a shelf in the hallway. I used a stud finder. I used a level. I felt the house inhale, a subtle breath, as the screws bit securely into the wood. I placed a small bowl on the shelf, a silent receptacle for keys that were mine and mine alone. On Sunday at 5 o'clock, while they convened their emergency meeting without me, I grilled 2 burgers on my small backyard grill. One I delivered to my neighbor, who later texted, "You're a good neighbor." I watched the string lights illuminate the encroaching dusk, the lemon tree branches clicking softly in the breeze. I ate the second burger in a chair I had purchased with my own money, contemplating Dad's phrase, "family asset." I pondered how many years I had mistakenly conflated family with shared access to Aaron. The next morning, Mom attempted one final, desperate ceremonial strike. "We took your keys," she texted. "We're blessing your house with oil." They had no keys. I had changed the locks. I reminded her of this. She responded with a photo, a small jar of oil, placed on our old kitchen table. "We're praying for you," she wrote. "Thanks." I typed back, the brevity in new armor. "Keep your hands off my deed." She offered no further reply. A week after the housewarming that never happened, I hosted one. For myself, I invited 5 colleagues, 2 friends from my pickup basketball league, and my kind neighbor. I made the same chili, laid out the same unassuming plastic spoons. We gathered on the charmingly squeaky porch swing, sharing candid stories of job site mishaps and the questionable joys of first apartments infested with mice. At 7:40, my phone vibrated face down on the counter. I left it undisturbed. At 9:10, someone remarked, "This place genuinely feels like you." I retired at 11 o'clock, dishes in the sink, my phone peacefully on Do Not Disturb, and awoke at 6:30 to sunlight filtering through the lemon leaves. I felt a profound quiet, a stillness that was not empty, but full. The mailbox with its sturdy lock now delivers a daily postcard for myself, a silent, powerful affirmation. Asterisk, this is yours. This is yours. This is yours. Asterisk, so now I turn to you. After everything, do you think I was too harsh? Or was it finally time to put my foot down decisively? I genuinely appreciate hearing your thoughts.